Okay.
All right, good evening, everybody. So, uh, today we're going to have our second Watson Analytics WebEx, and we're going to cover the Twitter data analysis, and we're going to cover the storybook. And there is a little bonus at the end, but you have to stay through the end of the session or watch through the end of the recording. All right. So here is today's agenda. We're gonna look at the importing data from Twitter. We're gonna look at analyzing data from Twitter. We're gonna look at dashboards and infographics, and we're going to look at storybooks. I'll show you the analytics exchange site. Then you're gonna get some instructions on how to use the team folders, and there is a little bonus at the end. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, here is a reminder. You're not going to use the browser back and forward buttons. You're going to use a menu instead. Whenever you delete anything, it doesn't matter if it's data or discovery or if it's storybook, right? That's it. It's gone forever. There is no recycle bin, right? Now, let me go ahead and share my screen with you, and I'll show you how to import Twitter data. So let me hit share my screen. Okay, so let me switch to Watson Analytics application. So as you may remember, you still have the 3Ds, data, discover, display, and I'm in a personal area right now, and I'm gonna click on new data. But instead of importing data from the sample files, and instead of uploading data from my local file, right, from my hard drive, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit Twitter right now. Now let's quickly look at the interface. Here I can put my keywords, right, one or more keywords, and every keyword should be followed by the little hash sign, right? I may specify one or more keywords here, and I need to put a hash mark before each keyword. Like, for example, suppose that I want to search for tweet on the topic air conditioning, since now it's a summer, right? And I want my tweets to contain both terms, right? See this? I have two options here. I can include any hashtags, or I can include all of the hashtags that I typed. If I put any, it's going to include the words that have either air or the words that have either conditioning or both. But I'm interested in both, so I need to select include all hashtags, right? Now, always you want to preview the estimates. At the moment, it shows me that I have only 4, right? So what I'll need to do is I can change my start date in here, and I'm going to go back. I can go back up to 2 more years. I think it goes back up to 2005. Well, all right, so let's see what happens when I go back to May 2016. You always want to check the number of tweets, and because you don't want to have too many, right? You don't want to have too many because it's going to take a long time to load, and you don't want to have too little because you want to make sure that you're getting nice models, right? That you don't have too little data to work with. Maya, please ask somebody to put on mute. Thank you. All right. So here we go. This is a start date. It's going to be an end date. And we're going to click on a show estimates. So here is the number of tweets. I'm happy, right? And our tweets will include these 2 terms, and we can do up to 10 terms. I want to keep all languages, and this is my date range. And this is going to be the name of the data set that it's going to create. I'm going to hit import right now. And what it's doing is something similar to what you have seen before. It's up, but instead of uploading data from the file, we're uploading it from Twitter. Right now it's processing. So it's trying to find the relationships in my data, right? So basically we are on this slide. So what I did was I clicked on new data, and then I'm on the import tab and I selected Twitter, right? Now here, this is a criteria. I can enter up to 10 hashtags, and then I choose if I want my tweets to include all of them, right, or some of them. I selected my language, I selected my date, and I have my dataset name. So now let's go back. Hopefully it finished uploading. Here it is. It's finished right now. So now let's go ahead and take a quick look at the data. I need to click here on ellipsis to open up the menu, and I'm going to click on refine. And when I do this, I'm opening my dataset in the edit mode, and take a look at this. I have a year, I've got the months, I've got the date, and I have the hour. This is the author country, author state, right? So that's a location. Now, notice this. Here are the two hashtags that I typed, right? I typed these two hashtags, and the number one means that the tweet that I picked up includes this hashtag. See this? It creates a separate variable here for each hashtag, right? So now this is telling me if the tweet is the original post or if it's a reply. Then I have a language and so on, right? So I have the user location, and I have the number of how many people responded to the tweet, number of user followers, right? Similar to my other data sets, I can add hierarchies, I can add formulas, I can show hide fields, and I can add my data groups. So now let me take a look here. Some fields were added for me without even me knowing, and one of the fields is this hierarchy. So, and I'll show you why it's important. So let me go ahead and check it, because I want it to be included in my analysis. So I'll be able to do the drill down. I have the author's country, and within a country I'm going to have a state, and then within a state I'm going to have a city. So let me click on edit just to show you. See this? This is the author country through city hierarchy, and this hierarchy has 3 levels: country, state, and city, right? If I had something like a county, I could add it to go more, right? Could go more in depth. But let's leave it as is. Okay, let me hit cancel, right? And let's close this out. So now, notice this asterisk. It means that I made change, right? This asterisk means that I made change. Let me save it, but I'm going to save as a copy because I want to keep my original file that I imported. And I'm going to call it, I'm saving it to my personal area, and let's call it air conditioning refined, right? Air conditioning refined. Now, something here to keep in mind is that when you did a search, it searched for the word as you typed, right? In some countries, some people call it as AC. It did not get picked up. And some countries call it air condition instead of air conditioning. It did not get picked up because it's going to pick up the hashtags as is, right? Now, so let me go ahead and hit save. There we go. Now I'm going to show you what analysis we can do with it. So as I mentioned, we could show hide columns. We could take the subset of data rows, right? We could add the calculations. All right, so that finished saving. Right now, I'm going to click on the logo to go back to my landing page. So here it is. This is a data set that we just saved as a copy. Well, data quality is not so good, but let's not worry about it for right now. I'm going to click on this. Let's see what we're gonna have. By default, right? Oh, it picked up a map. This is a really good one, and I wanted to show you this one. uh, this will gonna show me the number of authors per country. So let me go ahead and click on this, and it's gonna show me the map. See this? So I have people in the United States, I have people in Brazil, I have people in Russia, in fact, and I have people in Australia, I have people in India who tweeted on this topic. So now, notice this here, right now it's showing me by country, and what I could do is I could click on a country here, like this, and it should allow me. See this? I click on a country. Now I click on ellipsis. What is this? Remember, I just showed you the hierarchy. I can click on this arrow to go down, and it's gonna show me the breakdown by the state, right? Each color code indicates the number of tweets. So now I have my data broken by the state. What I could also do is I could click on a state. For instance, in New York, right? I'm clicking on a state. I can further break down my data by the city, but it's not going to show me a map like this. It's going to show me, I believe it's going to be the bar graph, something like that. Click here, oops, stay. Now I click on ellipsis, and then I'm going to click on the go down, and it's going to give me this bar chart. So apparently I've got only 2 cities in here, and this shows me the number of tweets, right? The number of tweets per city. Now what I can do, I can go back, right? I have to click, and then I have to click on my ellipsis, and I'm gonna go up. That's gonna bring me back to my map by the state. Now let's do this. We have to save this, right? Let's save it. Save as, and I'm gonna save it in my area, and I'm gonna call it as, let's call it AC Discovery. Right? I'm gonna call it as AC Discovery. Save. And here, let me do this. Let me rename this. All right. So see this is a tab in my Discovery workbook, and I want to add descriptive names because I'm not gonna know what untitled is, right? So let me say tweets by location, right? So here are my tweets by location. In this case, I'm looking at the United States, right? But I can go back to see by countries, right? Suppose that I want to have another visualization by countries. So let's look at what I can do here. I can click here, and I can do this duplicate. This, I can make a copy of this, and now see that this is a copy, and I can click here again. I can click here, and I can go back. Oops. Look, I clicked, and then I have to click on the ellipsis. Well, it's really tricky because you have to make it stay, and then you have to click on the ellipsis, and then select to move up, right? You can click on any state, in fact, and then you have to select. It's a little bit, sometimes it's not cooperating the way you want it to, but that's okay. But you've got the idea, right? Oops, here it is, finally. Now you have to go up. Alright, and it's going to show me by country right now. So this is the whole idea of the hierarchy, and I want to rename this, right? You usually want to rename it, because you want the naming to be consistent, right? You want the name to, let me do this, let's put it by country, right? Country. There we go. Now I'm gonna add more. Discoveries. It's because I'll have to develop a display, and I have to have something to display. So let me go add another tab, right? And now let me see the drivers, right? So I can say what drives sentiment. Now, what is a sentiment? Sentiment, in other words, it's a post, it's a tweet polarity. If it's a negative or if it's a positive post, right? So let me go ahead and let me click on. Here we go. So now I want to build a decision tree model for the sentiment. And I'm going to click here, decision tree model. It added a new tab, and it's going to build the decision tree rules for me. And it's going, here is a list of the related visualizations that I might be interested in. And remember, this list is dynamic, right? Now here I'm gonna see rules, and I can toggle between decision rules and trees, and I can also click on analysis, and when it's ready it will show me how my tree was constructed and also the confusion matrix, and I'll show you. So now I'm looking at the neutral, right? So these conditions specify when the user sentiment is neutral. It's a combination. So take a look at it. Language is English, French, German, Spanish, and here I have the posted from. So that's basically how a person used to post, right? And also here is the which browser the user used, right? So that's basically how a person posted the message, right? Here we go. So now I want to look at my rules for the positive. Who posted positive? So that's probably somebody who speaks English, French, German, and Spanish. And here it tells me how many posts this rule applies to, right? It tells me how many records fall into this category. So now I can also look at there is no negative, right? I can look at there any ambivalent or known, and I've got some unknowns, right? And I have some positives and I have some neutral, right? Now what I could do is I can do the tree. I can toggle to the tree, and this is my tree. The way you traverse the tree is you start here, and let me see if I can. Alright, so you start here, which means all rows, and if you hover, it's gonna show me the number of records, and it's showing me the breakdown, how many posts are ambivalent, how many posts are negative, how many neutral, how many positive and unknown, and the total number of posts. So it showed me this breakdown in here. Notice that we did not have any rules for the negative and for ambivalent, but we still have some data that falls into that category. So now here we have language, right? If the language falls into this group right here, then we can we go to this branch, the top branch. Otherwise, we go to the bottom branch. If we are at the top branch, then we conclude that the sentiment is unknown. Now, if we're not here, if we hover, it's going to show us the percentage of tweets per each polarity, right? Now, I'm using my sentiment positive signals. I'm using it as a second. Is this better now? Yes, I have to change the zoom. So I'm using it as a second splitting criteria, right? I'm using this as a second one. And then if here basically showing if there are some positive signals, then it's going to be mainly neutral, right? The sentiment is going to be mainly neutral, and so on. Now here it's how the message was posted, right? Apparently it's another factor here, right? So which determines the message polarity. Well, and so on. I might not like how my tree looks like, but well, you can always play around with which variables you're using for predictions, which variables you're not using, and so on, right? So now let me go ahead. I want to rename this. Well, to rename this tab, you have to click on a tab, and you have to select rename, and then you type in the name. And let me see, let me type it sentiment tree. Right? So now I also have to save it. Very, very important. You want to always save your work. Now, I'm going to add more discoveries, but before I do that, let me show you the analysis. In the earlier walkthrough, we looked at the confusion matrix that had only maybe 4 entries, right? Because we had 2 values, 2 categorical values. Here, we have more. So here in this section, predicted, it shows you the predicted values, right? Here, this label here stands for predicted sentiment value, and the label here stands for actual. So here, this number means that we have 579 tweets that were predicted as neutral that are actually neutral, right? So how are we going to determine the method accuracy? You're going to take all numbers that fall into the diagonal, right? You're going to take a sum of numbers that fall onto the diagonal, and you're going to divide by the total sum of numbers. Because see this, if this number is in diagonal, it means that the predicted sentiment is equal to the actual sentiment. Something very important here to look at is how our tree was constructed, right? So here it's basically going through the transformations step by step, like which fields were used for splitting variables, right? So for some reason it won't let me scroll down further. But if you notice this, let me close it for a while. Here is our first variable, right? What it did was it grouped several languages together, right? So this is a grouping. Remember, you have a binning and you've got a grouping where you have one condition here. It groups several values for the language, right? Okay, so basically you would have to scroll down. Oh yeah, that's called supervised merged. That's a terminology. Supervised merge means that when you take several values of language and you group them right together. See this? Instead of looking at one language separately, the tree groups them. Now, something else I need to show you here. So let's save this first. And now I'm going to add more, of course, because I have to have more models to build my visualizations, to build my dashboards. So let's do this. Let's see. Suppose that I want to have a custom one. Let's do the custom one, and let's pick the grid. Right? Let's pick the grid. I'm going to click on this. Okay. So it got picked up, and what I'm gonna do now, I need to physically drag and drop the fields that I want to use. Like for example, I can do the sentiment. That's right here. Right? I want my sentiment to be here. It's going to be the column. It's going to be the row heading. And I'm going to do the, let's do this author gender, right? Author gender is going to be my columns. And for the cells, I can do the tweet count, right? Author tweet count. That's going to be for my cells here, right? Whoa! I'm getting what I did not expect. Oh, okay. Makes sense. So here, okay. I'm getting an unexpected result is because I did not put the field that I wanted to. I put the sentiment positive signal instead of sentiment that I wanted to put, right? So if I make this mistake, I can just click on the back button and I can just select what I want to show, right? I can just select I can change the field from here, and there we go. That's what I wanted to do. So let me go ahead, and I'm going to save this as sentiment by gender. Okay, or rather, let's do it tweets by gender by sentiment. Right? Excellent. So this is what we have right now. I'm going to save it again, the whole workbook. Right? See this? I save it. And now what we'll do is we could also, if I wanted to, I'm not going to do it, but if I wanted to, I could add a multiplier. Like, for example, I could have a post type, right? The post type could be original post or could be reply. I can create a separate table based on the post type, right? So now let's add another one. And I really like to look at the time series sometimes. So we can look at something over time. And it's not in here. Oh, yeah, we can still drag and drop. That's right. We can still drag and drop. I like that question. But let me take a look here, and let me type it. Let me type it over. Let's see what happens, because I want to look at. Okay, what is the distribution? Okay, so what this will do is it's gonna show me the distribution based on a time a day. It's gonna show me the distribution of tweets based on the time of day. See this? So here, apparently, I can say this is a military time. And here, it's showing me the average number of tweets for the average number of tweets per time of the day, right? So as you can see, at 11 p.m., apparently you have the most tweets. And here is 9 a.m. So this is basically showing me how the number of tweets usually varies by hour. Right. So let me go ahead, and I'm going to save it. Tweets by hour. Well, but it does not really. Okay. Now I'm gonna go ahead. I saved it. Wait. I have to hit save. What else I could do is I could add the color, and perhaps I can add the. Let's see what happens if I add the sentiment for my color. Let's see if it's going to break down. Oh, nice. So now I have it per sentiment. For each hour, I can see the distribution of tweets per sentiment. That's what it's doing now. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's save this again. I'm saving it. All right. So now, how many do I have? I've got 5, right? I have 5 in here. So for right now, let's go ahead and we're going to close this file. And we're going to build our display to start with. Right before we can do the storybook, we have to create a display and infographic. I'm going to do both tonight. So let's do this. Let's click on new display. And I'm going to call it as AC display, right? And I'm gonna keep it a dashboard for right now. I'm gonna do a dashboard, and I promise I'll do an infographic tonight too. All right, so let's do create. Now I can select any of the layouts here. Let's do. I'll just do one. Let's just do one. Now, what I can do here is that I can pick any of the existing discoveries. That's what I want. I'm gonna click on the personal. Now here, see this? This is a workbook that I just created today. My workbook had 5 tabs, so I have to click on the arrow here to expand the tabs. And now I'm going to drag my visualization. So pay attention. I'm gonna hover over the arrow because I want my visualization to take up this whole space here. Right? Here you can rotate it, you can duplicate, and you can delete. And you can go in a focus mode to make any additional updates. Notice that when I bring it in the focus mode, it's showing me the data tray, right? So basically my visualization is somewhat similar to the discovery. Now let me go ahead and close this right now, and I'm going to name this tab as tweets by country. Something here to keep in mind is that when I create my storybook later on, the storybook is going to have several thumbnails. If my dashboard has more than one tab, all the tabs will show under the same thumbnail when I create the storybook, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So let's go ahead and save this, and let's keep this name, save. So now what I'll do, I'm going to add another tab, and now I can let's pick this visualization, and I'm going to add tweets by hour, and here I'm going to edit the text. I can do widgets, and I can drag and drop. Excellent observation. All right, someone already told me I can drag and drop. And here, well, let's put something like tweets count by hour in military time. And see this? This is what I like. And this is new. See this? The spell check. It picked up that I misspelled the word. It underlined it. Well, what I'm not sure is that if it's a browser functionality or if it's a Watson Analytics. But if you notice that, this is interesting question. It just picked up that I misspelled the word. Okay, let me go ahead and save it. So now I've got two tabs. I have two tabs, right? 1 and 2. So now let me go ahead. I'm going to close this, and now I'm going to create an infographic. What is the difference between dashboard and infographics? Let's think about it. Dashboard can have how many tabs? Many, right? One or many. Infographic is one long page. So let me select infographic, and this is going to be one long page. And let me select this here. And I'll be able to scroll through the page. If I define a filter, it will apply to all visualizations on the infographics. While on a dashboard, I have a choice. I can define the filter on one tab, or I can define a filter on all tabs, or I can go to the focus mode for a visualization and define the filter at that level. Here, I don't have that many options, right? Now let's go here, personal, and here is my discovery, and let's use something that I have not used. I did not use this one, right? Tweets by, okay. See this? I put over the arrows the way I did before. Now I'm gonna pick something else here, and I already use this. Let's put the tree. It might not be as pretty, but this is just for the demonstration purposes. But in reality, this is too small to look at, right? So you want to keep in mind the layout, or I can expand it actually. Take a look at this. I can drag and drop to expand this if I want to. It allows. So now let's go ahead and let me save this, and I'm going to save it as AC infographic. AC underscore infographic, and I'm gonna hit save. So now I've got my dashboard, and I've got my infographic. Let's close this. Right? So I've got this, but now I want to create a nice presentation for my manager. But I'm not going to tell my manager, hey, first look here, first look there. I want to create it as a nice, beautiful storybook with annotations, and I want to put my visualizations or infographics in the same order that I want my manager to look at. So here, planning is very important, because once you add something, you cannot really move it, and I'll show you. So let me go ahead, let's do new display, and let's create a storybook, expert storybook. Now, one reason we are using the Watson Analytics professional subscription to do the work in this class is because the storybooks are not available in free Watson Analytics version. So that's one reason. Now, I'm not going to call it new storybook. Let's call it AC storybook. So that's our topic of today, right? So let's go ahead and hit create. Now here, this is my storybook name, and then I can add my. Do me a favor, please. Okay. So storybook about something like that. Now I could do more, and I could go. I can change my picture, right? I can add a picture. There we go. Let's assume that it looks like AC. So that's my background. Now what I can do is I'm going to start adding the displays that I created, and this is my display, and this is my infographic. Now notice here, this is the list of displays that I can access. Some of them are in personal folder, and some of them are in the folders that I have access to. So, very important, you want to make sure that all your work is saved only either in your personal folder or in the folder for your group. We're going to get into the groups for the assignment. But you don't want anyone in the system to use your work by accident and modify it. That's one reason. So let's go ahead here, and I'm going to drag and drop. Very important, the order in which I place my elements here, it's the same order in which they will appear when my customer will preview my storybook. So let's go ahead, drag and drop. This is my first thumbnail, and I could change this name if I want to. And now I can tap here, and I can add a picture. I can pick any picture that I want, right? You would usually want to pick something that more describes what your visualization look like, and you're going to click OK. Choose. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the second one. I'm going to drag and drop, right? So this is my infographic. Now I'm going to save my storybook. Remember, the storybook can have two modes, the view mode and the edit mode, right? When I'm in the edit mode, I can edit my displays. Rather, I can add displays, I can delete displays, and I can also do this. I can add the annotation. And annotation is the textual explanation of what I'm showing. Now, see this? I forgot to rename the tab, right? I forgot to rename the tab in my display, and it's showing me as untitled. So that's a problem. You want to rename it, because untitled is not descriptive for an end user. But for right now, let me see. Let's say that this map shows the number of tweets per country. So when I did that, you have to click on Add Explanation, right? I could add even more if I wanted to, and here it's going to be the whole list. Now, what I could also do is I could click and add explanation here, right? But we need to be careful. We need to be careful when we do that. It's because as a Twitter data, the data that we are using to build the storybook can be replaced. So if I put here the country with maximum number of tweets, and if I load my data, and United States no longer has a maximum number of tweets, I'm not going to be accurate. My visualization is not going to be accurate. So that's something to keep in mind. Let me go ahead and let me click on OK in here. OK. Ooh. All right. So now let's go ahead and save this. So visualization has two modes. When you see the glasses, the eyeglasses, it means that you're currently in the edit mode. If you click on a glasses, if you see the pencil, you're in a view mode. When the storybook is in a view mode, basically you can assume that you're an end user, you're previewing, you're tab finding, expert tab finding. Now, if I click here, well, notice that it says to tab finding. It means that I'm using two displays to build my storybook, and the displays are built from one data set. I can click here, and this showing me the data set that I use to build my visualizations in this storybook. So if I use more than one data set, they will show here. They will show up here. And then I can select the data set from the drop down, and this drop down will be populated with the visualizations that use this data set. Right? To close this out, I click here. But let's click on the data info. It's just showing me here, it's just showing me basically the names of the displays that I used to create this storybook. So let's close this. Now I'm going to be an end user. And what I can do is I can click here. So now I started using the storybook basically, right? I see this, and I'm going to see the map once it's loaded, right? Here I see two tabs, right? And this is the text. Do you remember when I added the second tab to my dashboard, I added this text. That's what it is. It's a static text. Now I'm still on the first thumbnail. What I could also do here, I click on the arrow. That will take me to my second thumbnail, which is infographic. This is how I use the storybook as an end user. Right? Now, I went through all pages of the storybook, but I still did not find what I'm looking for. This is what I can do. And this is something that can keep us awake all night long, but I promise that I'm not going to do it. But let me show you. I can click on the home, and I can use my storybook to ask additional questions. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to ask my questions. And notice that right now it's starting to load the starting points, right? So it's going to suggest anything else that I might be interested in. This is similar to what I saw in when I created my displays. This is somewhat similar. And selecting visualization here is going to create another display. It's going to create another display basically. So I can do this. What is the contribution of author friend count over here? Or I can do this tweet by year by tweet type. Okay? Or alternatively, I can ask my own question. Like for instance, I want to see the drivers. Do you remember we have the spiral model? Right. Well, in this case, it didn't give me what I wanted, so I can click on X. let's go ahead and select the existing one. I mean, let's select the starting point that it's given us, and I'm going to pick, which one do you like? Let's pick something. Let's go next, and let's just pick this one. By author city, okay, let's just pick this one. And here, we can always customize, we can always change the field that we use. So it's loading. Here we go. So this is showing me by year. This is a tweets count by author city. But I don't like it. I can just, if I don't like it, I can go back and I can always change, right? But I'm not gonna do it. Do you know why? Because it's picking up the hierarchy. It's picking up the hierarchy. Instead I can just go one level up in the hierarchy, right? I can do that. Or what I could also do is I could filter it to show only perhaps specific continent, right? So here there is a lot of interesting things that I can do. So let me do this. See this? I click here. This is another good use of hierarchy. I click here, and then I'm going to do the group up. I'm going to do the group up, and let's see what happens. Okay, so this is showing me by year right now. So this is my second hierarchy, right? The time. The time can be rolled up by the year, right? I believe it's year. We have a year, we have an hour, and I think we also have the months. So we have two hierarchies, remember? Now, let me click. That's not really what I wanted to do. Let me go down. So here, I went down one level, right? And so on. So let me go ahead and rename this. Let's name this as, okay, I'm going to rename this. And let's call it tweets by year, by city, right? By year, by location. So I renamed this, save this, and I also have to specify the name of the discovery. And I want to do this additional, or let's do AC underscore additional discovery. Right? This additional discovery is safe. Now what I need to do is I want to add this discovery to my storybook, right? I cannot just go in and add the discovery. I have to create another either dashboard or infographic. So I'm going to go back to the landing page, and I'm going to the display, and let me do new display, and let me do dashboard, and I'm gonna hit, let's call it AC underscore additional dashboard, right? And I'm going to hit create, and I'm going to select one. Okay, so here I'm going to do personal, and this is what I just created. Even though my display has only one tab, I still have to click on the arrow to expand this. Drag and drop. Now, do you remember that we need to rename this? All right. So, and I'm going to call it tweets by city per year. Right? Something for you to keep in mind that each dashboard may have tweets from more than one display. So for demonstration purposes, I'm going to click on here, plus, and I'm going to add another one here, and I'm going to scroll down to the discovery that I created earlier, and I'm going to add tweets by hour here, right? And here I'm going to rename tweets by hour, and let's call it tweets by hour, and then say by sentiment, right? So this is my chart, right? And I'm gonna click here to close this, and I'm gonna hit save. Remember, save it, right? And okay, so you might be wondering what dashboards and infographics have in common. Look at this. You have display mode, you have an edit mode. You can add these widgets. You can change the formatting if you like, right? You can change the background colors and so on. You can change the themes. Well, I'm going to leave you guys to play around with this, right? It's going to be your homework, right? To explore all these options and what they could do. So now I'm going to go back to my storybook. Remember, I did not close it. If I don't close something, it's still gonna be here. It's here is a list of files that I have opened. I can just go through here, and now, right now I'm in a view mode. I cannot add any more findings until I'm in the edit mode, and I have to click on a pencil to go to the edit mode. And now it's loading my displays, and here this is a additional dashboard that I just created. I need to scroll down and I need to edit here. This is an empty thumbnail. Here, let's see. There we go. And I can rename it, or I can keep it as is, and then I can click here to add a thumbnail. Remember, this is more like a time series, so let me pick something like this, or like this rather, right? You can pick only one thumbnail. You can pick only one visualization, one thumbnail per. Okay, just one. Oops, I have to scroll down and click choose. Okay. Now we can continue. We can keep going, but I'm not going to do that because I love this application to the point that I can get carried away. All right. So now, what I did for you guys in the slides, I did a summary of what we can do with the Twitter data, and here I summarized that you've got an option menu, and you can refine the Twitter. You can do replaces basically. Well, you can do another search. You can do a search for different criteria, perhaps a different date range, and it's going to replace the current data with a new set. That's what it's going to do. Here I'm just summarizing the data that gets pulled, right? This is also called the metadata. It's an information about the tweets. And here I'm just showing you that you can define the filters, you can look at the properties, and you can look at the data quality score the same way as you have been doing so far in your other assignments. Here is also nothing new. I'm just showing you how to create a hierarchy. So suppose that there was no hierarchy. You could create your own, right? So let me close this. Let me go back to my data set. Well, okay, I'm not going to save it, but I wanted to show you something, how you would create the hierarchy if you have to. I would have to click here on the plus sign, and I would have to pick hierarchy, and secretly behind the scene hierarchy is a new field, right? Hierarchy. Well, it's a little bit taking its time, but in any case, hierarchy is nothing but another field. I'm going to put location. Wait. It's taking its time. But here, location is going to be the name of my variable. Okay? And I think it probably has to do, sometimes it has to do with what's running on your laptop at the same time. So that's possible. And now I'm going to add levels. And the level in this case is going to be country is my level, city is my level, and so on. Okay, since it's taken time a little bit to respond, and I want to make sure that we go through the walkthrough, I'm gonna hit cancel. Well, hold on. Looks like it's still syncing, and the browser keeps. Oh, okay, here it is. It finally came up. So I'm going to add the level, and I'm going to select country, right? I'm just assuming that I did not have it. I'm assuming that I did not have the hierarchy created for me. Ouch. So I can select country, and then I can keep on adding. I would click on add level and select another one, and so on, right? So when this is happening, you want to check the task manager. You want to check to make sure what else could be running at the same time. Okay? You want to check what else can be running at the same time. It could be something like, it could be running the Windows update or anything like that. And it could be slowing down your laptop, right? So sometimes you want to pay attention. So I was talking about this. I was talking about different types of visualizations. Here, this visualization here is the by location, and here I'm showing the time series chart. And here, this is a word cloud. I'm just giving you ideas at what can be done and what cannot. I can do the network that shows the relationships among the terms, and I can do the decision tree, and I can do the summary tables, and this is what I create the measures table. Basically, this is a custom visualization, right? And I can add the grid, right? So here is a summary of the differences between the dashboards and infographics, and I'm going to give you a copy of the slides after this meeting. So basically, the main difference is the dashboard may have more than one tab, and you may define a filter on the whole dashboard, or you may define the filter that applies only to the single tab. And now here is an infographics. So basically, an infographic is single page, and you would have to scroll down. Both dashboards and infographics are interactive, and you may use the predefined layouts. You may use existing discoveries, and you can create a new one on the fly. And you can use them both inside the storybook. And I'm going to add something that's not here. Both of them, you can use them in the edit mode and in the story and in a view mode, right? It's not in here, but I just thought about it. Well, here I'm just showing you the steps how to create an infographics, right? I want to make sure that I cover everything that needs to be covered before I move on to shared folders. So here it's showing you can look at the infographic in the view mode, right? Here I'm showing you the steps to create the storybook, and here I'm showing you how to add explanations to your storybooks. It's a summary of what we discussed, toggling between view mode and edit mode. Then I showed you how to preview the data, right? And basically here I'm showing you that the dataset name that gets displayed is it better be one of the datasets that in your personal area. Because if it's not, we're gonna have a problem, and I plan to demonstrate it. Okay, so for right now, here is the Storybook Actions menu. So let me go back. It's in this browser. Here it is. Look at this. I go to this here. I can rename, I can move, Move will be useful when you start sharing files with your team. And I can delete, but if you delete something, is there a recycle bin? Well, no. There is no recycle bin, so it will be gone forever. Now, so keep that in mind, right? Let me see. This is important. Here, this is the analytics exchange page. Basically, there are some sample, or yes, let's call it sample storybooks that you can look at. And you click here, and then you're gonna click to analytics exchange. It will take you to the page with sample data sets, more sample data sets, and the sample storybook. Well, you know, you're not going to turn in the storybook for grading, but you need to take a look at it to get some ideas on what you can do in your project. The purpose is just to get ideas and to see what can be done, what cannot be done. But we are not taking it. You see what I'm saying? Sometimes we need an example. So what I can do here, I want to import the storybook to my personal area and to take a look at this. Let me pick this one, and I'm gonna choose it for a reason. It's because on another slide I'll show you there is a video on YouTube that actually goes with this expert storybook, right? So sometimes after this class later on, for your own knowledge, you may want to import the storybook and watch the video about the storybook at the same time if you'd like to follow along and see. Yeah. So I'm gonna click import, and what it's gonna do right now is you're going to see a message, confirmation message that it's importing. And okay, I have to click import to confirm. What it will do is it will import the data set. It will import the displays and or infographics that were used to create this storybook. It's going to add a subfolder called imported, and inside that folder I'll see all the displays. So now look at this. I opened the storybook in a view mode, and this storybook was created by the IBM Maximo. Now, look at this. I can click here, and it's telling me there are 4 top findings, and this storybook is using one data set, right? Here. Here are my 4 displays that I have, and display can be dashboard or infographic. And here is a data set, and I could replace this data set with my own, but I'll have to be careful because I want to make sure that the columns, the fields are compatible, right? Because if I have only 2 fields in my data, it's very difficult, right? I can click on the information here. It's going to show me the names. So this shows me that that's the data set information that I'm using, and the data was in a CSV format. And here it's top findings. It showed me that I have 4. So let's see what it is in the layman terms, so to speak. Okay, take a look here. I'm in a display right now. This is a folder that was created for me. It's called importing. And for every storybook that I import, it will create a subfolder. And here are my 4 top findings and questions. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Now, something else. It also added the data. It's going to be inside this folder. See this on the left? This is a directory. I am right now inside personal, inside imported in a personal, and here this is a subfolder. In general, you can have, I believe it's up to 5 levels of nesting, right? So here it is. This is my data, and I can go in and create additional discoveries if I want to. Yeah. But I just showed you how you may import the sample storybooks. and you can just use it as a starting point, just to see what can be done, what cannot be done. That's a good idea, right? So here it is, and I mentioned that this one, right, these two storybook, these two other videos. So you can watch and you can follow along to see exactly what the presenter is discussing. Now, personal area versus shared area. This is an important topic. Everything that I save in a personal area, this is my work. Only I can see it, or an administrator can see it. Like, I can see the work done by 350 plus students in university, right? This is all of you guys taking the course. Because I'm an administrator, I can see everybody's folder. I can see my personal, and this is shared. Some of you ask me why I see more stuff in this folder than you do. It's because I'm an administrator. I see all folders from last semesters. But what you will see is you're going to see this folder called More Sample Data Sets. And inside this folder, to help you, I uploaded some data sets from Kaggle. And I'm going to share the URLs for the dataset descriptions with your teaching assistant and with your faculty. So that way you will know where to find the field description. Some of these data sets are suitable for your assignment 4 and 5. I don't want you to spend hours looking for the data sets where you can pick something here. See this? Like, for instance, you might be interested in air quality index, or you might be interested in predicting the student's academic performance, or you might be interested in predicting the profit from the video game sales, right? And so on. You might like to do something about mortgages. Well, you have a lot of choices here, and this is a restaurant inspection score, so you could perhaps predict the actual outcome of the inspection. Yes, and also another thing that you will see is you're going to see the folder for the section that you are enrolled in. So SU stands for the summer, and 2007 is a year. And then you're going to see the data 610, and here is your session number. For example, if you're enrolled in session 9040, you'll see this. And also, let's assume, oops, that's not what I want to do. Let's assume quickly that you are enrolled in session 9040. Let's just assume. So what Yelena will do in about a week from now, or in 2 weeks from now, Elena will create folders for each group, right? I'm going to create a folder, look, for each group here, right? Let's temporarily assume that you are taking, or let's assume that I'm taking the Data 610 course right now, and I am in session 9040. This is just assumption. So I want to share the files with my team, and let's just assume that Steve is going to be my teammate. We work together, right? So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to my personal area. Here it is. I'm in personal right now, and I want to share this data set with Steve, right? I want to share this data set with him. So what I need to do is I have to click on ellipsis. Ooh, nope, that's not okay. And now I have to click on rename. Rename. See this? I click on rename. Ooh, aha! Anybody, why did I get an error message? I did it on purpose. Oops. Well, I should not have clicked rename, but I got an error message because my data is still open. I have to close all data. I have to close the file before I can do anything with it. I cannot move it, I cannot rename it while the file is still open, right? So now, let's do this, let's move this, and I want to share my file with Steve, and we're both taking this session, right? And we are members of group 1. We are not going to see the rest of these folders. We're going to see only the sessions that we are taking, and we are members of group 1. Let me go ahead and click on move. Keep this as is. Do not uncheck this. You want to keep this as is. Because if you're not careful, it's quite possible that you will lose access to the work that you did. Trust me. If we're not careful, we might lose access to our own work. Okay? So just keep that in mind. Alright. So I put it in a shared folder and I put it, look at this, important. Here, this is a directory structure, right? And here is the content of the directory. Anything that's saved at the root of the shared folder will be removed. If you saved something here by accident, you will be contacting me. Trust me, right? It will be removed from this area. Good news. The good news are that right now, for data only, this applies to the data tab only. If I click on ellipsis, if I click on asset information, Yelena will now be able to see who did not follow the rule. More likely, if this is the first time, Yelena will send a courtesy email just to let the person know, let the person know that the work needs to be saved on in a shared folder for the group, because you don't want anybody else to access it, right, and intentionally, and you don't want your teammate to be looking for your files all over the application. We want to make it easier for everyone, so we have these rules for a reason. Now, what Steve will need to do is he will need to click on share to expand the list that he can see, and he'll be able to, if he's a student, he'll be able to see the folder more dataset and a session he's enrolled in. So he'll need to click on this plus, and he'll need to click here, and he will see this file. This is the group file. Right now there are no discoveries because I have not shared anything, right? But I have to, right? Something you might want to keep in mind is that if you share the discovery with your team, you also have to share the dataset that you used to create the discovery. If you don't, your teammate will get an error message because there is a dependency. The discovery depends on the dataset that we used to create it. Alright, the display depends on the discovery that we use to build the display, and it also depends on the dataset that was used to create the discovery used in the display. So there is a relationship between these assets, right? Even if I create a new copy of the file with the same name, it won't do it. It won't fix the problem because internally, every file has a unique identifier number, and when you create new discovery internally, it's associated with a specific data file by that number. It does not go by the file name, it goes by a unique number. When I create a new file, it's going to be a new number. Like if I delete this file and recreate this file, right, the number is going to be different. So once you break this association, you really there is no way to fix it. At least I do not have a way to fix it. I'm not aware. If you figure it out, I'll appreciate if you share it with me. Anyway, now what I wanted to show is to share the discovery. Similarly, you have to select move. I cannot do this, and I cannot do this because I have to close it. And something I need to tell you, this is extremely important. Suppose that I shared something with Steve, right? And I left the file open, right? I leave it open, but I log out, but I leave it open. When Steve will try to modify the file that I shared with him, he might not be able to. Why? Because I still have it open. Even though I'm not logged into the system at the moment, I have a lock on the file. So, when you start working in groups, make sure that you have everything closed. Before you log out, close everything. If your last change was not saved, you're going to see the asterisk next to the file name, and you'll be prompted if you want to save or discard the changes, right? So, so this is important. You want to close the file, because even if you're not logged in right now, if the file is open, you're still using it, you're still keeping the lock, right? So this is one of the challenges that students have been running into in previous semesters. And there is another challenge here. You want to make sure that when you're working on a file in your personal area, when you put the file into the group area, before that, you want to save a copy. Always save a backup copy. This is a very, very sad story, but it's a true story. It happened last semester, and it happened right before the work was due. One of the group members, I'm not finger pointing, but one of the group members accidentally deleted another group member's work, and a group member did not back up. So, this is what you want to do. Okay, suppose that I'm in my personal folder. Before sharing the visualizations with Steve, I'm going to save a copy. Or my other option is to click here. I opened my visualization. Oops, this is not a display. Okay, let me do this. I want to go to the discovery, and I want to share the visualization with Steve, but at the same time, I want to retain a copy just for me. So I can go here, and I have an option to save it as a copy, and I can save it as a copy to the shared area. This is save as, and I'm going to save a copy. Right? You can do that. But again, when you decide to unshare, you might be running into a little problem because you can have only one file with the same name. So let me rename it. Let's say it's shared with team. I just do that, and then I can expand this, and I can I have to find my folder for my session, and I have to find my team, and I'm going to do save. So here, I save this to the shared area. Right now, I'm in the shared area. If I leave this as is, my teammates will have a problem. They won't be able to edit. Or if they are able to edit this file when I log in, the next time I will have a problem. I might not be looking at the latest version of the file. So let's just close this. That way, my teammates will be able to use it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the shared folder again, and I'm going to be nasty right now. I'll show you what I'll do. I'm going to go here, I'm going to go to here. This is my group. This is the discovery that I just shared. And this is my data set. And I use this data set to create the discovery. But for some reason, Yelena is no longer sharing this data with the team. So what I can do is to stop sharing, I have to click on move. And I'm going to move it to the personal folder. Again, let me see. This is a personal. And I'm going to select move. So doing that, now I got a warning. And I got a warning because perhaps I have a visualization that depends on this data set, and the visualization is going to become invalid. Well, I might not be able to demonstrate it unless I log in as Steve, but what will happen right now is that this visualization, when he tries to open this discovery, he will be receiving an error. And an error message would say something like the data set was deleted, something along this line, right? So this is very important. You have to share all files. When you have the dependencies, right? When you have discoveries that depends on the data, you need to share all files. But I'm able to show you something ugly right now. I'm able to show you something what's going to happen in your project 5, where you're working with a team. You're creating a storybook. By the way, storybooks cannot be saved as a copy. You cannot make a backup copy of the storybook. I asked this question in the IBM Watson Analytics discussion forums. We can save a copy of the data, we can save a copy of discovery, we can save a copy of the dashboard or infographics, but not the storybook. But at least, please back up what you can, right? So let's go back to shared, and what I did in here, well, you don't have access to this, but this is for demonstration purposes, for the storybook demonstration. So here, this is an example of the storybook that has all correct files. The storybook is about the sprite, and here, data, I have my data set, right? I click on discover, I have all my discoveries, and here I have all of my dashboards, right? Those are my dashboards, and this is the storybook. So when I click on the storybook, I can play it without a problem, right? I created this storybook during one of the demos last semester. So this is a sprite, and I can just run this. I can preview my data here. See, there's no problem, right? And I have no problems because I edit all of the required files, right? All the files were shared with this user. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this out, and I'm going to show you the problems and why there is a problem. Now here, this storybook is missing everything. So look, I'm not sharing any data. I'm not sharing any discoveries. What I'm sharing is just the storybook file. I only share the storybook file. Let me show you what's going to happen. I click here, and the storybook is on a data set that tracks if the student will make through the program. Now look, it looks like I have two tab findings, right? It's recognizing that I have two thumbnails, but the problem is it's showing me that I have 0 data assets. It's not finding my data. Now I click here, I'm getting an error, no data available, and there's nothing I can do. I can switch back and forth between my dashboard, but there is nothing, no data. Something is wrong. Now I'm gonna click on this. Let's see what's gonna happen. Do you see the problem? It tells me the display cannot be found. And the display cannot be found because another team member who created this workbook who created the storybook didn't share the files with me. So this is a problem. Now, okay, getting better, one step at a time. My team member saw the error, no displays. So they partially fixed the problem. Right now, I've got all my, oops, that's not what I wanted to do, but I've got all my displays. I've got all of my displays here, right? So this project was done about the Oreo cookies, also as part of one of the demos. So I have all of the displays here, and I have my storybook. But is the issue resolved? I don't think so. Look what's gonna happen right now. I'm clicking to open up my storybook. So far so good. So here it says that I have 3 tab findings. Well, so far it thinks that I have 1 data set. Somehow it's recognizing that my tab findings are associated with a data set. The problem is I click on this right now, and it's telling me no data available. See this? there is still a problem. Well, it's trying to pull data from the dataset called audio, right? So it knows that it's my displays are associated with a dataset called audio, but it's not finding the data. So now it's time to preview. Take a look at what's going to happen. Well, it's going to show the visualization. It's going to attempt to show, but it says, the error message says we cannot access the data. And when you click on more info, it's telling you the data asset has been deleted and you don't have permission to access it. So this is what's going to happen when you're not giving your team member access to the storybook. All right? Okay, so let's go ahead and let's close this out. And also, let's close this. And also, if I go into the display in question and try to preview it, I'm going to get a similar error. So if you get this error, just open the dashboard and see if the dashboard returns an error. This is a debugging strategy, right? You receive this error, then you open your dashboard and see if you're getting this error still. So that means that I would have to contact someone. I would have to contact my teammate who forgot to place the rest of the files. And the teammate needs to put the rest of the files in the folder. All right? So I hope that makes sense. I spent some time discussing it, but I think it's really important. Now, take a look at this. Here, it does summary of how to access the group folder. And same thing here, right? This is another summary that when I look at the group folder and when I look at the asset in the group folder, it's going to show me the location. And I'm going to get the same menu, right? And I can look it up where the asset was created and when, well, I can look it up. The asset information I can delete, I can rename, and etc. Here, this is an important rule. Everything that's saved in the wrong location will be removed, and this is an example of the file that is due for removal. See this? Because they saved it in the root of the shared folder. Now, here, this is an error message. This is a permission error. When you don't have a file that is required to open the discovery workbook, you're going to get this error. This chart here is just to help you understand the relationships between the elements. So you have here 3 data sets, and then you have discoveries 1A and 1B that I used from dataset 1. Here I have 2 discoveries from dataset 2, and I've got some discoveries from dataset 3. Here I'm creating the displays, right? And I can use more than one discovery in a display. So here, see this infographics is going to use basically 2 data sets because I'm pulling one discovery. See this discovery here is using dataset 2, and the other 3 discoveries are using dataset 3. So I've got my storybook. The storybook will have 2 displays, 1 infographics, and 3 data sets. If I miss one data set, if I miss this data set in the folder, right? Suppose that I have everything else but this data set. This display will be invalid. Display 1 will be invalid. I'll still be able to play the rest of the storybook, but not first display. Here I'm just basically showing you what happens when you don't share. This is the error message that I just demonstrated. This will happen if you don't share the display with your teammate. And here I'm sharing the display. It seems to work, but Jesus, but I still get I may still receive no data available. Wait a minute. Oh, make sure that the data was not deleted. Yes. So if you see the no data available, it's right here. See this? It's right here. Looks like I see my visualization somehow, but I don't see the data. this here shows me that if you receive the no data available message, when you click on this little database icon, right, that's right here. Where is that? Oops. Here, this is my storybook, just as an example. And see this? When I click on this here in the view mode, no data available. It means that either my group member deleted the data, or the data is not was not in the folder, in the shared folder. Right? I don't have access to this, right? But my teammate in question may still be able to see this this storybook. The storybook may still work for my teammate because he or she has access to the personal folder where the data might be. So, okay. If part of your assignment deliverable was the actual storybook, in other words, if perhaps your instructor or TA logs in to actually check what storybook was created by the team as part of the grading, right? Just assume you would need to make sure that all files are in a shared folder, and you would have to test it as yourself, and your teammates would also have to test it as themselves, because it's highly possible that the page that works for you may not work for your classmate, and it has to do with that you might have the file in the dependencies hierarchy. The file might be in your personal area, so the storybook works for you because you still have access to the file. But the storybook, it might not work for your teammates, right? It might not work for your teammate because your teammate cannot access your personal folder, right? So something to keep in mind. All right. Now, bonus part, joins. I promised, and Yelena tries to keep her promises. So now let me go back to my personal area, and this is not going to take long, because this is just a concept. I have two data files here. I have the sales data file that tracks the customer ID and the purchase, right? Okay, so see, here it is my customer data that tracks information about the customer, and this is information about the order. So notice here, if I click on refine, let me show you something. Here, I have the sales ID, I have a customer ID, but I don't have any information about the customer, such as customer name, right? And I want my information, I want my analysis to include the details about the customer. So this is what I need to do, and this is totally brand new functionality, and we can only do two. We can only do two data sets. We can join them on a same column. So see this field, we have customer ID here. I need to join it with a customer. I click on a plus sign here. Now I'm going to add the data set, and it's in my personal area, and this is my customer. I select it. Here I have to select it again, because look at it, this is a file and this is a tab inside the file. So if you are going to join data, you want to make sure that the tab in your Excel file has a meaningful name, because the name of the tab is what's going to appear right here at the top. So now I'm going to click OK. Take a look at what's going to happen. I added the second tab. This is my customer information, including the telephone number. The status is probably active, inactive, first name, last name. Now, what I want to do is I want to have a single table that lists this information along with the customer name. I have two, right? I have sales and I have data information. Now I'm going to do the join. Look, I'm going to click here. This is a join. It was grayed out before because I had only one data set. Now what I need to do, I need to find my customer ID here and customer ID here. I'm gonna pay attention, I'm gonna take this error and I'm gonna drag it here. Ooh. I'm gonna take this and I have to drag it. For some reason it won't let me, or maybe it's still, oops, here, customer ID to customer ID. See this? I was grabbing the wrong field. Look. I have to link these two. See what happens? So the red color code is for the sales and the green color code is for the customer. The color code tells you from which table the fields came from. Now, take a look at this. Here is a customer ID from the sales table, and this is a customer ID from the customer table. I'm joining the matching customer IDs. See this? But if I have a customer in a customer's table who has not purchased anything, that customer is not going to appear here. So this is also called the equijoin if you're familiar with the databases. Let me go ahead and expand. So in Watson Analytics, it's called the matching row join. There are 3 types of joins. I have an option. I can show all sales, right? Well, right now it's showing me the sales record for a customer who exists. The customers who don't exist will not be listed at all. I can list all sales data even if the customer who made the purchase does not exist. So this is going to be A+ matching rows. On the other hand, I can list all sales data and I can include the customers who have not purchased anything. They're going to be one extra row for a customer who has not purchased anything with blank sale information. So see this? This customer has not purchased anything. So the join that I used right now, right, this B+ matching rows, this is a type of join that I use. It's going to return the customers even though they have not purchased anything, and the purchase information will be blank, right? So this is a type of join. Alternatively, I can list all orders, right? And even though if the customer information is unknown, then it's going to be this field in green would be blank, right? But what I just did, well, doesn't really make sense. So let me switch back. More likely, you'd want to list the matching rows. Well, it depends on the business logic. Sometimes you want to still include, sometimes you still want to include the data in the first table, even if there are no matching rows in the second table. But I'm just showing you the concept. And this added the new tab, see, the third tab. I want you to keep in mind that if you delete this here, you're going to lose the work. The join data will become invalid. So don't delete this. Now, what happens when I try to save it? I'm going to get an error message. And I'll show you. I'm going to get an error message. It's because it started as a single tab, but right now it's a multi-tab. We cannot do it. So we have to save this. We have to save this as a copy. Okay? And we have to pick a name, different name. While it's still loading, oh, okay, here it is. We're going to call it sales with customer info. Right? That's it. And I'm going to hit save. So now I saved this. Notice that I also have a product table. There is a product key. Well, the problem is that at the moment, Watson Analytics only supports joining 2 tables. I cannot add here I wish I could, but I cannot add the product table and join it on a product number. See, there is a product number, and I also have a product data. Well, unfortunately, even if I open the joined version of the dataset, I cannot do it. I also tried to do the join with tweeted data. That's out of the question for right now. If the data was collected from Twitter, well, the join may work, but the discovery does not. So let me close this. Close this. So here it is. This is what I just created. And this icon means that the dataset was a join. And I can do the same analysis. If I click here, I'm going to get my suggested list of explorations. This works. On the other hand, if I was doing, I just, on my leisure time, I played around. I tried to join, I created the dummy dataset with a list of countries, and the countries are properties. And I tried to join that to the data collected from Twitter on the country name. Well, the join worked, but I was unable to get the visualization to work. So this is still not supported. Do not join the Twitter data. So no, it's still not going to work. All right. So let's go back to the slide. We showed this, right? Right here, this is a matching field, right? And I use the same color code just to show. Here is a list of resources, and you're going to get this handout. You're going to get the slides. And one of them, I really love this web page because it shows you the explanations of the fields that are in the data set for Twitter data. And here are the Storybook resources. Now, Yelena has talked for almost a couple hours, a little bit less than that. So now is a turn for students who have been paying the undivided attention to ask questions. Do we have anybody? I'm stopping to share the screen for a few minutes. Let me see. So, any questions? So I'm going to say kudos to Jocelyn for staying all the way through the end of the presentation. Yes, go ahead, speak it up. You can speak up. Are you muted? Yes, go ahead, speak up, please. Jocelyn, I cannot hear you. I see that you raised your hand, but you might be still on mute. I cannot hear you. Do you have a question? You can type it in the chat. And remember, the question and answer session does not end tonight. You may still post questions, you may still ask TAs, and you may ask me, in fact. But my response time is going to be a bit slower this week. Okay, what is? Can we create more than one? Okay, let me see. Let me look at the chat. Can we create more than one joint data set using the same table? Oh, that's an excellent question. I love questions. So I would think yes. To make sure, okay, just to quickly make sure, let's do this. I have this sales here, right? Where is it? Here it is, sales. I'm gonna do refine, and I'm gonna try to join it with a product. So take a look at this. I'm gonna do sales, refine, right? See this? This is my sales, and I can do this, add, and I'm gonna do the product, right? I think the answer is yes, but Yelena likes to tell the truth. Any objections here? Nope, it does not object it. It took it, right? So now I can do this, yes, and now I'm gonna find my product number, and this is a product number, so I have to do this, drag and drop. So what is the answer? Yes. And now I'm gonna get save as. Let's see what happened. Take a look. Save as sales, and I'm gonna save it something like sales with products. Sales with product. On the other hand, I cannot add them all. Well, I tried it. I wanted to create one data set with 3 joined, right? Products and sales and customer. I could not do it. So this is not supported yet. But perhaps it's something Watson Analytics might be considering, perhaps. Well, we'll find out. But this is a good enhancement to joining data. Okay. So let me stop sharing. Oops. Let's see what else we have. Nothing in the discussion. All right. So, Steve, is there anything that you would like to add to the presentation?
No, that was very thorough and very interesting and very helpful to me at least. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording and I'll send the link to you to send to everyone else, okay?
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Yelena. Hey, good luck in Malaysia. Have fun.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I was gonna say that. Well, I'll still be checking emails, well, when I get the connection, but my responses are going to be a little bit slower, and people know how fast I usually respond. But
Yeah, it's
yeah,
fine. Have a good time.
thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.